Hi everyone, Laurent here with RMUS in Calgary, and today I have Tedman Jess with me from Suncor, and we'll be discussing about how Suncor is using drones across their operation. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, Laurent.
So, Ted, tell us about what you do at Suncor.
You betcha. So I am the Senior Aviation Advisor for drones. I have been in my role since the beginning of 2020. And before that, I was sort of working drones part-time. And really the change of why my role exists is as in 2019, Part 9 of the CARS, the Canadian Aviation Air Regulations, finally made legislation so that we didn't need SFOCs to operate drones. And so that was in June, and we had started onboarding vendors in a real piecemeal manner. There wasn't really an organization to it. Drones I would say, are still looked upon in our company as a tool, not an aircraft system. But with us having Section 9, it allowed us in the aviation group to sort of get our control of the drones because we're the aviation experts. In July of that year of 2019, we had a surveyor out at Fort Hills who reported, and I'm going to say a near miss, with a low-flying helicopter, and it was an Alberta forestry helicopter. So that fell onto our plate to do the investigation through our aviation department, and with our contacts, we were actually able to reach out to the Alberta forestry, and we were actually able to get the onboard telemetry, and we proved that there was not, I think, over, I want to say 700 feet of separation. But it did highlight the fact that we have aircraft flying over our sites for Suncor, we have helicopters flying over our sites for Suncor, and there was no real way to manage them. And so my role really to begin with and up until this year has been to look over the how do I want to call it? My role is to look over the sort of regulation and Suncor guidelines for our vendors. And so we're not dictating the work, we're just a function of the company that supports the work. So we make sure that all of our vendors meet the right licensing requirements, they have all the registrations, they're insured and all that kind of stuff. And then really in 2023, we started an internal operation for drones and started a pilot program with 7 different business units across the RMWB, and that really was to get drones in the hands of employees because, we have survey crews who are Suncor employees, but they were never able to operate drones. They were never able to keep up to pace with the technology and with their own pace of their own industry. And so we onboarded some some survey companies, some survey business units within Suncor to then utilize drones. So now we fully took them through ground school. We've trained them, got them time on controls, and as of about 6 months, we've been operating drones within our own business units. That's not to say that we're taking away from vendors, because we want our folks are not drone pilots. They're using drones to augment their own natural work, and we had to come up with a balance of what is a appropriate level or missions to fly for a Suncor pilot versus a external vendor who really are the experts. They're the ones that have been flying for so long. But we want to take the simplified, and I want to say simple or low risk operations, especially survey mapping, visual inspections. We want to take and put the power of drones into our own employees' hands so that they can not have to wait for the data to be processed. They can actually have an eye in the sky right away. And so we have now, like I said, there's 7 groups that we have now given out a drone to, and they're working through using them in everyday work, and that's something now in 2024 we're going to expand to the rest of the company. So the pilot program is actually winding down, and now we're going to go into a growth or model for our business units. So
Okay. So how is the adoption from your team about this drones technology?
Well, so we as Suncor, we're I would say manufacturer platform agnostic. We want to use the best tool for the job. So really, part of our role in our team now is to really be in the forefront of education of sort of what's possible, what is actually coming down the pipeline in terms of technology, and then really matching up sort of the best platform or the best sensor to the business unit to then proceed to be able to use it. So really, like, I mean, the world is of possibilities right now, and part of our part of where we're heading really is or the job we have to do before we can really roll this out to the rest of the company is we have to do some education. We have to let the business units and the individual users actually know what is possible to do with drones. Because some people just think that drones are just a toy or that they're only for survey. They don't understand that one platform can provide a mass amount of potential work and also cut down on say time. Like we wouldn't have to, for inspections, we don't have to build scaffolding anymore. For we're not sending our crews or multiple crews out into like a dangerous environment like the mining environment. We can actually take survey crews and boots on the ground out of the field and replace them with one drone pilot, and so our exposure footprint is actually shrinking as well.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that you have some benefit in terms of speed to get the data, in terms of safety to get the people outside of hazardous areas.
And absolutely, like just cost savings, like and operational cost savings. So like a flare stack inspection, we'd have to shut down the plant for we have to schedule that to be in line with our turnaround. We have to then take 2 weeks to build the scaffold so that we can put a couple people in fall protection, put them at height, put them at risk, to then to literally just put eyes on an issue. Whereas now we can, give us an hour and we can complete that task, and it's saving us hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So can you give us some more example of how you are using drones today?
Oh, you betcha. So, so in our pilot program, internally, we have given an M30T, so the thermal camera package, to our emergency services department. So now anytime they're on a call, whether it's a fire or a crash or even just having that potential thermal camera, I can actually think about last year where there was an encounter with a bear, and we didn't have access to a thermal camera on site. If the wildlife people had access to thermal cameras, they could have tracked that bear and made sure that either scared away or actually know where that bear is. Whereas it ended up being a guessing game. We are using a lot of surveying. So in our open pit mines, we are flying our mine almost every day. I think across the Suncor region, we're averaging nine separate mapping missions a day. That's with vendors and with our own folks. But we're using the mapping to actually bill. So when we're in a mining environment and the amount of dirt that's being moved, the amount of earth, the amount of bitumen, oil sands that are being moved, the operators of the shovels and the haul trucks are actually using the survey data, the volumetric calculations to bill Suncor, and it's a control for us as well because it's an independent third party who's doing the measurements, and it's numbers we can all agree on. So, and then the exciting space that we're getting into is then the inspection drones. So a lot of as we're in April now, it's our turnaround or shutdown season for maintenance on all our plants, and so as that as those assets are taken offline, instead of sending somebody in with a breathing apparatus and putting them again in the line of fire, we can now put a drone inside to do all the inspection work and do it much more safely and I think faster, and again it's a cost savings that I don't understand why you would choose to put a person in harm's way or in the line of fire, I would say, as opposed to using a drone now. It's just not only just, it's not all about numbers, it is about protecting people as well, but financially, everything, it makes sense. So and then some other programs that we're running out, so we are doing some beyond visual line of sight trials to see what's available. I don't think that BV loss will be Suncor's main bread and butter, like I was saying, but we want to be able to leverage that technology when the regulations, I would say, catch up with it. So we're doing some beyond visual line of sight pipeline surveys, gas detection as well. So, and that also, when we're talking now about long haul flights, it's actually amazing the greenhouse gas emissions that we can save by using a battery powered drone as opposed to putting up a turbine driven helicopter or piston driven fixed wing aircraft. So you know, there's benefits that come to this technology and that we're seeing all the time, and it seems to me it's like you wait 18 months and then there's that next leap. So, and it's a challenge to sort of keep up with the curve and the technology that's coming out there, but it's also really exciting because we're seeing potential uses for new technology all the time. And I mean, I have people lined up out my door who are screaming to have a drone once we sort of release the program to the company-wide coming up here in the next few months.
All right. So do you do a lot of helicopter inspection right now that you intend to replace with drones in the near future?
Yeah, so we're seeing from even 2023 into 2024 the shift of, again, what is possible with drones now. So a lot of people don't know is that Suncor is actually the third largest energy producer electricity producer in Alberta. And so we actually have a large transmission and distribution lines. So previously, we would have to inspect all of our towers and insulators and all that with a gentleman hanging out the side of a helicopter with the sensor in a handheld mode. And now we're able to break up those inspections and fly shorter amounts, but also cover a lot more ground from the ground as opposed to literally burning fuel so that somebody can get eyes in the sky. So other use cases that we're looking at, I mean, it's really it's as long as it can fit on the platform, it's what sensors are out there. I mean, we're evaluating a bunch of different water sampling units now for using collection from our tailings ponds. And so again, previously to using drones, we would actually have to put 3 workers in life vests, put them into a boat, into a tailings pond so that they can go out to collect it. And, you know, what those researchers and scientists in the data collection they're looking for, especially in water, is that they want an undisturbed water column. So you'd have to go out into a boat, then you'd have to sit and wait before you can collect your sample. Now we can be a safe distance back from the tailings ponds. We do not have to put our folks into with life preservers on. They can go out, collect the water sample because they're not disturbing the water column, simply put the siphon into the water, collect it, and they're back and packed up within like 20 minutes. So, it's quite, and it's just, I mean, I could just keep on rattling off use cases of what we're doing. So, but like I just maybe even just if you're interested in just talk about our numbers, like our year-over-year growth is in drones since we've used this it's almost exponential. Like it's I think when we first started tracking drone flights, we were tracking something around like 300 flights a year, and that would be in 2020, and in 2024, I think in total drone flights across Suncor, we're expected to have over 3,500 separate missions. So we don't consider when I say flight or mission, we don't really care if the unit comes back and you do a battery swap. It's like how long did your mission last? So we're looking at about 3,500 separate missions across the company.
Okay.
And
so
most of them are in the Wood Buffalo region. So.
Okay, yeah, so that's about 10 a day. So that's huge.
Yeah. So it's exciting. So yeah, and then of course it's we have to really also evaluate our vendors and know what equipment they're using, and I mean, drones are a large investment, but I do think that the technology is changing so fast, it's almost hard to keep up. And so, as we work with our vendors so that we can get them to procure the latest and greatest technology that makes their lives easier, our lives easier. So, and part of it is standardizing the data. That's something that is a challenge right now, but we're working through that. So.
Yeah, and as you said, things are evolving very quickly and faster than ever. And tell us about your partnership with RMUS and what you're expecting out of it.
You betcha. So I'm very happy that we were introduced. I guess it was almost a year and a bit ago. So and that we're finally, this relationship is coming to fruition. I'm excited to work with you guys because you're able to show us and bring us the latest and greatest technology without us having to actually commit to a full-blown system, where then by you guys being embedded on site with the units, we can actually show the business units and the actual people on the ground the best technology that's available now. And as well as like working with you guys, it sort of takes a bit of a burden off of my department as well, is that you will present us with solutions and newest payloads, newest units that are tailored towards the energy sector, because there is a lot of technology out there, but not all of it is for us. And it's like, I would love to know more about surveillance drones. I just don't have the bandwidth for it, right? So for us to have a partner like you guys who actually are the experts, who know how to use everything, can show us how to use everything, the learning curve for us to adopt new payloads, new platforms, it just cuts that time and stress and money down. And we know that we're getting a system that is robust. It's not I don't want to say throw anybody under the bus, but there are definitely some manufacturers, there are some units that are definitely better than others. So and having you guys go through that testing and showing us what is the ideal solution for our need.
And so, with drones, there are plenty of applications that are not yet explored. So, how are new use cases triggered within Suncor? What have you seen so far? When you try a new application with the drones, is it coming from someone having an idea? Is it coming from a challenge that needs to be addressed no matter what?
So I think for us, there's a couple tracks that would come to us when I can think of certain examples. It really is our function is to support the business, and if we see a tool or we learn of a tool that we think could benefit, then that's when we bring this technology to the business unit and say we think it can help you. And so we've had some success with water sampling units in that regard. But most of the times it's the business units coming to us, asking us for the solution and trying to find that out. So I would say like a great thing in the inspection space, drones are not a one size fit all. And I'll just say this is that people think like, it's the magic that can happen, but really we also work with the business units to when I can think of this one shutdown in this one coker unit, they want to get into a really confined space, and it's just there's no application for that yet, and so we have to go back to the business unit and say, I'm sorry, we don't have the technology is not there yet, we have to find something else. So in this case, this year, instead of using a drone like they wanted to, we've actually got them in touch with a specialized company that does drop cameras, just because it's the only solution at the moment. But look, eyes to the future. It's I think a lot of these solutions will be able to be used with drones.
Okay, and so you are pretty much advanced in your drone program journey. What recommendation would you give to other oil and gas company or heavy industry companies that are starting to use drones in their operations?
So I think the model that we're looking at and that we've decided to tackle after the pilot program that we've been running for a year and a bit now, is that we look at a drone as part of the toolbox for somebody to use. So I would say instead of focusing on like specific drone pilots, if I was a large organization, like what we're doing is complement your people's work that they're already doing, make their lives in the field easier. When you can take a couple hours of work off of somebody's plate, and instead make them able to do that same job in 20 minutes, we're also then keeping our employees. They're not leaving for other opportunities, and we don't have any additional training because they're already on site, and they're the people that are sort of intimately familiar with their own area of work. So why would we bring somebody in from the outside to perform a task when we can just give them the training and the proper technology to use it?
So when it comes to training pilots, can you walk us through what kind of commitment it means from Suncor?
Yeah, you betcha. So like we don't allow any vendor or employee to just have their basic license. So we look at it as we are doing commercial work, we are advanced operators. So we make sure that all of our pilots, whether they're vendors or our own internal pilots, so get their advanced certificate. It's not an easy exam to pass, especially for people who don't have the aviation background. So we really want to set our people up for success. So we have run them through a week-long ground school. And then it also is to go with the theory. It's not like a video game. You can't just pick it up and fly. So we really make sure that people have hands-on controls and time-on controls. We have a specific area that we use up in the oil sands, so that we have a controlled area where people can't just walk up to us. It's a gated access, and when we fly drones, we're the only ones that are there. And it really is, it's also finding the right people to use drones, because if people just look at it really as just another tool and it's something that they use once every couple weeks, well, the use case, the finances, and the investment don't really make sense. You have to target the areas that are going to use drones. And for us, it is, again, we want them to fly in sort of that low risk box, that repeatable flights where they're comfortable. You know, our internal inspectors that are using drones, you know, if they're not comfortable flying in a space, you know, they don't fly. We get a vendor in who has more flight hours and everything. But, you know, I think one of the biggest challenges is just starting. It's very, it can be intimidating, it can be daunting, but, you know, just get your first couple of pilots certified, get drones in their hands, get them out into the field, and then really prove the business case, prove the use case of what you and I already know can save us money and take people out of the line of fire. Sometimes you have to market it towards the people making the decisions in the company as well. So I think making sure that, you know, if you have, I just look at our surveyors, you know, getting them the right equipment in their hands, training them, and then really proving out to the rest of the business that it's viable, and as well as it becomes part of their day-to-day routine. It's something that they just use every day. So they are a drone pilot, but they're you know, they're still a surveyor. So
okay, and so where do you see your drone program going in the next 1-2 years? I mean, in terms of number of pilots, number of flights?
Yeah, you betcha. So I expect, so currently in our pilot program, we have 30 pilots who are trained, advanced, have drones and are using them in the field. I would say now, as we are into Q2 now, but by the end of Q2, I will probably have another 18 pilots trained. And we're looking at running a ground school pretty much every quarter now going forward, where we're going to train 18 to 20 pilots. So I would expect at the end of 2024, if I don't have 60 pilots trained in Suncor, then we're behind where we want to be. Going forward in the next couple years, I just see growth. It's you know, we've proved some business cases, and now you know, I as I said, I have a lineup of business units out the door who want to use drones. And so one of our troubles is, how do we effectively roll that out in a sustainable way across the company? And I really think like it's just a matter of schedule. So I see us by the end of 2024. I can see us with over 100 pilots, and I can see us with over 50 units in the field, in the hands of employees, on top of our vendor work. So
yeah. And so for the more specialized flight, you will use your service contractor. For the regular flight, you will use the Suncor pilots. What type of aircraft would you use with your pilots? Because there are different types of payload. You have fixed winged. Can you walk us through what it would look like?
Well, absolutely. It really depends on the business unit's needs. So obviously, an internal inspection, we're not going to give them a DJI M350. They're going to get a caged drone. All of our survey work currently is we are in the DJI M350, just with the platform, the versatility, the amount of payloads that it has. It really is sort of the workhorse, and that what we're seeing is being used in the region by our vendors as well. But again, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Our inspection folks, you know, we currently have a couple Elios units in Edmonton, but really it's it depends. Like I was talking with one of our survey groups, and the M350 is a really nice machine, and it can do a lot, but it can't do everything. And so we're looking at supplementing them even with just a Mavic 3, so that they can do panoramic photos. But it really is what the business unit's needs are. And that's why we have you guys as well, is so that if we don't know the answers and we're looking for a solution, then we can come talk to you guys, and you can provide us with the best platform and sensors available for the job.
Okay, so you're getting more pilots, more drone equipment. One way to scale a drone program that we are seeing is with autonomous dock solutions right now. Because instead of having one pilot for one drone, you can have one pilot controlling multiple dock solutions. So is that also something that you are considering when it comes to scaling drone activities for the Suncor operation?
Absolutely, but the regulations have to catch up with technology. We do not want to, I would say, fly in or have operations where we need to get special flight operating certificates for Suncor at the moment. I have vendors who have SFOCs for beyond visual line of sight and potentially autonomous. So we're not using any autonomous flights right now, but the writing's on the wall. The future, I mean, just 2025, the regulations will allow us, and it's absolutely a technology that we're excited about. But we just want to make sure that sort of the regulations are in place beforehand. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so the drone is basically a tool to collect the data.
Absolutely.
And now we are seeing more and more artificial intelligence put on the drone, so that the data collected can provide actionable insight to the operators. So is that something that you're starting to consider as well?
Absolutely. So in some maintenance spaces, just like on our haul trucks, when the shift changeover, we are looking at platforms that can just scan and track maintenance items, identify where the cracks have grown, where or I guess even in the inspection space, then it's the artificial intelligence and algorithms, I think, are going to be the future. I don't think they're not replacing any people yet, but we're definitely evaluating everything that we can. And I'll just say, like, again, like a maintenance program where you're doing NDT inspections, and when the machine or the program can tell you, like this needs to be looked at, or this needs to be fixed immediately. I think by the end of this year, we will be looking and evaluating platforms and software that can do predictive learning for us.
Nice.
So, and again, it's I think the next step that we're doing with you guys is the haul road trucks. So, the haul road truck roads, the haul truck roads. Sorry, where the machine learning will tell us how to build the road, so we have less wear and tear on our trucks, and for predictive maintenance of when road sections need to be looked at and to be built up.
Can you give us a sense of the cost for one tire compared to the cost of the drone?
Yeah, for sure. So like on our heavy haul trucks, you're looking at almost $500,000 for a tire, right? You blow one tire, because your corners were incorrectly made, or the crown of the road is not correct. So for to then have a drone that costs maybe a fifth of that of one tire, right? And we have our tire budgets are in the millions, and so if a $100,000 drone can save us millions of dollars, again, it's just a no-brainer.
So that's the big win. And are you tracking the smaller win when you use a drone on a regular basis? And
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, when we again, we just have to remind ourselves, because we're only flying in visual flight rules. I was in Fort McMurray last week, and it was the small win is, yes, because when the weather's great and we can fly, it cuts down the amount of work in that time. Whereas we had a bout of bad weather in Fort Mac, some snow and stuff, and we weren't able to fly drones. And so all those survey crews that are relying on their EBs, relying on their M350s, they had to get back out in the field with their theodolites and measurement tools and everything. So again, it just reminds people how it's a great tool to save time, but we always have to have sort of our manual backup processes just for when the weather's not great. So
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So and small wins too, like you'll see. I think we're looking. The cost of drones is coming down, so the ability to do work is again, it's in my opinion, there's no real small wins. They're all big. So again, it's just if we're able to take one worker out of the line of fire of an identified hazard that they still have to work around, and we can remove that person from that equation, like, to me, that's a big win in itself.
So what kind of resistance or friction are you seeing from operation about using drones?
In the ops side of things, I really think that the cost side of things have figured themselves out. It's really about in some ways the resistance still is to the cost, I would say, because people look at a drone and say you get the platform, and it's $10,000 for say the drone platform, but then it's $12,000 for one sensor, it's $15,000 for the next sensor. And so as in a business, we have to make sure that we're allocating the correct resources. And so I think in some ways, drones have opened up Pandora's box of what people think is possible, but we have to pull them back down to reality based on the cost and what they're willing to spend as a business unit. But I would say, like, the pushback or roadblocks for us getting in, like, from an operational point of view, it's how can drones work holistically within our operating environment. So at certain sites, because with Suncor we have six separate sites or different geography in the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo alone. And so each site operates a little bit differently. And so what works at one site can't necessarily be easily replicated at another, or we're finding, like, the permitting system for drones at one site is working really well, but then the permit site at another they're not giving blanket permits to our drones. And so, like, a lot of the drone time the pilot is spending is actually obtaining those permits and not flying. So it's also an education part on our side is how to bring that drones into an environment like that has sort of restrictive permits and stuff. So, but I think that's a challenge that any site is going to have, and it's just an evolution of using drones more. When you'll see sort of as more people get familiar with them, then it's a lot easier to accept change of existing processes. So yeah, from a standpoint, I think everybody understands that what the technology can do, and they're trying to leverage it for themselves. To see is honestly, I don't really see any major roadblocks for using drones anymore. So
No, that's
compared to 4 years ago when people were like, it's just a toy, right? So
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, lots of progress, lots of things coming up as well. So that's really exciting. Yeah.
yeah.
So I think our time is up. So is there anything else you'd like to share with people watching us today?
Oh, I'd just like to thank everybody for your time today, for listening in. I am available to answer any questions. You can find me on LinkedIn. Don't hesitate to add me, or you can always shoot drones@suncor.com a message, and my coworker and I will try our best to answer your questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Ted.
Thank you, Laurent.